Good evening and welcome to our second edition, our second live stream, and we're super excited about that. Thank you for those that joined us last week, and welcome to both those new and old. This evening, I'm joined by my co-host Sarah. Hello, Sarah.
Hiya.
Good week.
Long, very, very long, but we're nearly to the end. We're nearly to the end.
Yeah.
It's all good.
We had a super good week though in terms of the paranormal and in terms of live streaming. We had a guest appearance on Paranormal Shadow Investigations page, which was amazing. Matt and Shelley will be joining us this evening. Welcome, Matt and Shelley.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you? Good week?
No, it's been crap.
Just like that. Simple as that.
It's been crap.
Yeah, it's just been one of those weeks. But thank you so much. Well, firstly, thank you for allowing us to join you on your show on Sunday. It was lots of fun, and we felt really welcome. So thank you, and thank you for joining us this evening. Could you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Go for it. I'm going to share.
All right, you do that then. I'm Matt, obviously. I'm Shelley, and this is Matt, husband and wife. We have a team of 10.
10.
10, it's growing. We've been in the paranormal field now for many years. Too many, innit?
Yeah, your interest peaked before mine.
Oh yeah, years ago.
I had an interest, but for me it started in 2006. So we're completely different in terms of paranormal and what we believe.
We're completely different in every aspect, Matt.
Yeah. It's true. So yeah.
Yin and yang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
That's why we work. We're not only interested in the paranormal, we like the research side of it as well. We like all that. So yeah, we spent many years building equipment.
Yes.
Annoying people by investigating their houses. Running a bed. I think as pretty much there's not much we haven't done, is there really?
No, as I say, because you do readings. Shell's a believer. She's had experiences from a young age. I always had an interest from a young age, but very sceptical. Open-minded skeptic, I'd say, because I'd always see logic in things that people would quite easily say was paranormal. So it's still the same now after all these years. You get two lots of people. You get the ones that believe everything's paranormal, and you get the ones that believe not much is paranormal. And I'm in the middle somewhere. So that's why I do the equipment. That's why I do the apps, because it's easy for me to understand how they work, and just trying to push forward and try and find out how we get this communication and why paranormal and spirit chooses to talk through this.
So you have actually built the S box, is it?
S-box.
This one.
That's the one.
S-box, yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you tried to tell me earlier, but
okay,
yeah, mind blown.
A lot of the equipment we found at a market in West Country down in Dorset. Shelley spotted it and said, any interest? I said that'd be perfect to turn into a spirit box. We currently have a lot of boxes that sweep FM frequencies. My preference is AM frequencies, because the reason we moved away from AM many years ago and moved to FM is because with modern day technology and buildings, a lot of interference will come in through AM. So I believe AM is a better frequency to use for communication. So that's why I thought this box would be perfect. I just took all the internals out. I used a servo motor, and this is a servo tester. See it there. So all this is doing. I don't know if you've ever seen anyone do manual sweep before. They just turn the box on, they just turn the dial by hand back and forth. So all the servo is doing inside the box, it's just turning 180 degrees back and forth, and then I can control the speed with this device here. And it's just doing it for me rather than me sitting there turning the dial. It's just doing that job for me.
It's very technical. Kerry? Kerry, can you hear us? I think her internet's been a bit ropey today. So we've actually got a video clip of the S-Box when you went to Bluebell Hill.
It was nearby to Bluebell Hill, yes.
I'm going to attempt to share the screen. Yep. So I'll do that now. Bear with me. Technicalities. I'm not as technically minded as you, Matt.
It's all been a learning curve for us recently, all this StreamYard as well, because we used a different platform, didn't we?
Yeah, it's there's just so much to it.
Yeah, I think StreamYard's one of the easier ones, so I would bear with it.
Okay, bear with me.
Kerry's done a runner.
She's done a runner. She's left me to it. Cheers, love. Okay.
She's back. Did you share?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Got no sound, Sarah.
Have you got no sound?
No.
Let me try that one again.
A little box you have to check to enable audio when you share the stream.
Right. Bear with me, guys.
Kerry's back. Hello.
Hi, Kerry. Yeah. Welcome back.
Do you know what? I think with bad juju, technical errors across the board, I think it seems.
Oh, it's been all over the place.
Oh, sorry. So we were talking about the equipment that you made, and Sarah was going to do a demo of it. What brought you to make your own equipment in the first place? Did you think that there was a gap in the field for the research? What?
Yeah, definitely. It was, as I said, my first piece of evidence was captured on a dictaphone in 2006. From that point on, I was just fascinated how that communication happens. Is it manipulation of the device? Is it manipulation of the sound around the device? So the environmental sounds, whether it's wind, rain, depending on location. So another 4 or 5 years went by and the PSB7 coming up, which was, available around the world via Amazon. And the story behind that's, quite good also. But I was getting frustrated that I've seen a lot of people, pioneers in the field I looked up to, such as, Frank Sumption, people, creators of the devices. And I was seeing that they was taking standard radios that you can buy from the shop and hacking them, converting them into spirit boxes. But mainly American devices. I couldn't get them in the UK. I looked into having them shipped from the US. And by the time you get shipping and customs, you're paying double the price. So, probably 2012, when I was getting really frustrated, I couldn't find any devices that were easily hackable in the UK. So I think my first one was a car radio, a CD that I managed to open up, and I managed to hack that. So yeah, I think the whole equipment thing come from needing to know how this communication happens. And especially with the apps, it was using other people's applications and thinking it's working, but I don't know
what's in it,
what's in the app. So the only way I can do away with that doubt is to create an app myself that I know the contents of that app, everything involved that went into it, and then if I still get communication, I can't explain why. So yeah, the equipment and the apps is all to do with my own skepticism towards what everyone presents as paranormal. I just wanted to take that. Even to this day now, after all these years, I could quite easily find a device that I've built, and if it doesn't work, I'll say it's not working. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to build radios or apps because I believe they're fake. I can still do that to this day. But each year goes on, I just get more blown away with the evidence that comes through. So
that's amazing. So you've taken something that we all start off in the field wanting to understand more. Why does it happen? And you took that and really stepped it up again. Like, I'm gonna show you how this is happening. So that's amazing, because a lot of people want to be able to do those things, but they obviously haven't got the maybe not the know-how is the wrong way of putting it, but the kind of like where to start with that. So really, you're
a lot of patience, because I had.
I think the electronical engineering background helped, didn't it, a little bit?
Well, I was electrical engineer, so mechanical, but it wasn't electronics, which is
right.
Okay, so I had a bit of learning to do, but it was a lot of patience and a lot of talking to people that already had done things and learning from those people. That was quite enough to give me tips, but also a lot of them kept what they had done very guarded, and they didn't want to share the information because they know that if anyone wanted to, they could take their ideas and start a business if they wanted to. I've never really sold many devices. I think I've sold three in all the years I've been building, because I do get attached. They're personal.
He's a hoarder.
No.
No, had this conversation before, it seems.
No, I believe in the stone tape theory, so I try not to build anything if I'm not in the mood to do so. I've got to be in the right frame of mind, because we've had devices in the past that I've built out of materials that I know where they've come from, and it's given us negative replies in sessions. So,
oh wow,
yeah, it takes a lot of learning, but it's not too hard to do if you've got a little bit of know-how.
Okay, yeah, so that is fascinating, and I've obviously had a little bit of an interaction with some of your apps, and I've been spending the day watching a few of your lives and the kind of sessions that you've been doing. I don't know, Shelley, Sarah, are you okay to?
Yeah, we're going to give this another crack. Let's try again. So this is near Bluebell Hill. It's the S box which Matt kindly showed us while Kerry was somewhere, who knows. So yeah, this is it.
Because we're not too far away from the site that it happened. We'll try and make contact with the lady. Tell me when to stop, please. Can you tell me when to stop walking? Okay, so you can see the road. People heard we're waiting. Is that better for you? Okay, can you tell us what car you was in, please, when the accident happened? What make of car?
What make of car was you in?
I heard the end of it.
What colour was it?
That was amazing. So being in that situation, having that, because a bit of the backstory, actually, could you guys tell us a bit of the backstory about that location, please?
Yeah, go on then.
Yeah, sure. It's a location we visit frequently because it's only 2 to 5 minutes up the road.
Never lets us down either.
No. So there's a few sites around Bluebell Hill itself that have got their own history that's worth investigating. We didn't intentionally go on that live for that communication. We was just open to anything that was willing to talk, as we always are. We go to a location, we don't say to people, right, this is what's happened here, because we don't want to put anything in their heads before we start a spirit box. We want them to hear it for themselves.
I'll tell you, the one thing I do find intriguing about that place, though, is it's right above or right below power lines. You can't have a K2 or nothing there.
No.
So the energy is really high. Yeah, so that really seems to help, doesn't it?
We can't have the K2s just because it picks up just from the power lines that are probably 100 feet away. But that site is known as, it's part of, whether you've heard of it, it's called Kit's Coty. And it's part, and there's large stones that were once standing like Stonehenge, and it's the entrance to a chamber, a burial chamber. So we didn't, as I said, we didn't go there for communication with the lady that lost her life in a car crash, which is well documented, around this part. And not only for the time that it happened, people that drive down the hill or up the hill see a lady standing in a wedding dress. We've had people report, they phone the police and say, I've hit someone, I've run someone over, but I can't find the body. So.
But we actually found out that night that it wasn't actually the bride that was killed at the scene. It was her friend Patricia. Mm-hmm. The bride was actually killed in hospital. She actually died in hospital. So, we've grown up in the area believing that the bride had died on the hill. So we didn't know any different until we'd done that investigation and then found out through, I think it was... It was well documented on Google, wasn't it? We'd done a Google research and actually found out that it was true. So that was quite a gobsmacking one for us.
But what made that work on the night was we realised what we had coming through. We could hear it. The viewers watching live could also tell us what they was hearing. So Steve, our guy that works with us, he was on the phone Googling stuff, looking at the history there and then. So on that live, we showed the viewers and said, look, okay, you've heard what's come through. We've not mentioned it. And showed them on the phone, here's the history in front of you, and you've heard it come through the box. It's not something that we'd ever probably be able to repeat, because to get that validation live is what we want to do every time. But as you know, as investigators, some nights can go by and you not get a thing.
That was a one-off, wasn't it? We were very lucky that night.
And you get the occasional time that you'll have a really good night, but others you'll go home and have nothing at all. That's the way it works. But I think that's why we still come back and do it for those occasions that we do get that evidence.
And there is, we'll share the actual link to that video onto our like page, so that people can see the full video, because there's bits of information there and evidence that come through that we didn't show that were relevant to that story as well. And it does show you guys, doing the research afterhand and showing the evidence and stuff. But in particular, Matt, I noticed that towards the end you were quite touched by that interaction with with who you thought would be, or who is Patricia. So
yeah, side.
Yeah.
I think that would never have happened 5 or 6 years ago, I don't think.
No, absolutely not.
Because I was always that annoying guy in the paranormal team that went, hold on.
He was the blocker.
Yeah. To be
there's always one.
Always got one, yeah. It's always a man as well.
I used to be at the back of the room in the corner, leaving them to get on with it with a video camera.
Just there for the wife, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
moral support.
I was always that guy that sort of put logical explanations to everything that they said, oh, look at this picture, it's dust. it's a fly. I'd be quite honest about not believing what people were showing me. But as time's gone on, sometimes when you get that connection, because we listen to various boxes so frequent nowadays that when that connection happens, it's obvious when you've got that, and it might only be for 1 to 2 minutes. And on that night, as you just saw, we didn't expect to have that lady come through, so it's quite touching to have her come through and then be able to validate it live, and that's important to me. My goal years ago was to get evidence and present it to people, not to say this is definitely paranormal, but just to present it and say, make up your own mind what you think this is. So to get that on and live, it makes all the effort and all the work and hours we put in worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the name Patricia which is what come through the box previous to what was just shown.
Yeah.
You didn't realize the relevance of that name until you actually then done the research afterwards, and the name Patricia come in through the story. So it's really interesting that you've got that validation, and also the effect that has on the investigators as well when you have that interaction that you feel is that that's it kind of thing. So it's really interesting. Still on the topic of your creations, how does it feel to know that this evidence is coming through things that you've created yourself, your things that you've made out of love and your time and energy?
I've always said if I could do anything over again, I would do this under an alias, because I've got a love-hate relationship with the paranormal field because
of the drama
that goes on,
and the critics. I wouldn't call them critics; I'd call them trolls. There's a lot of trolls out there.
If I could go back and do it, I wouldn't do it under my own personal name, because there's been times that it's affected my personal life because of the hatred towards things that I've done. And it's not because it's controversial, it's just because I'm treading on people's toes. I think maybe, I don't know, I'll make a device, and everything I do is experimental. Nothing I'll say this will definitely work, because there's no experts in this field, and I'm definitely no expert.
I've got to say, before anything goes out, we test it thoroughly, don't we? Before we even put it on a live or do a video, we are in the field testing it, playing with it, and But
I would like to say that a lot of the stuff I make, I think about the device for hours, but I don't. I normally start with a blank canvas, and then as I build, I'll add something new to it. The VFL box was an example of that.
Yeah.
I said to Shelley one day, I've ordered a radio off of eBay. It was not what's that?
None. How much from science fiction have you used? None.
No, none at all. So the VFL box was like a 1950s Marconi radio cabinet. It turned up and it was huge. It was
massive.
It was massive, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So, like Shelley said, I do hoard some stuff. I've got boxes of stuff that I'll put in the cupboard, and maybe one day I'll use it. And the VFL box was perfect for that, because it's got a 5-inch TV built into it, which uses the theory of Klaus Schreiber, which is a video feedback loop back in the 1980s. So it's bringing old techniques to modern techniques, ITC. It's just so many experiments. A lot of stuff gets chucked out and is never used again, but the occasional bit of equipment comes through, and I'll always use it.
We can't talk about equipment without mentioning your device that was featured on Paranormal Lockdown. We have a little bit of a clip about that, but how did that come about?
That's what he's been talking about, the VFL.
VFL, yeah.
Yeah, how did the feature come about on the Paranormal Lockdown?
So I had an email come through from Elizabeth Saint, from Ghost of Shepherdstown. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes.
I saw the name, recognised the name, and I said to Shelley, I've got an email, what do you make of this? Because I get a lot of emails, I get a lot of messages about the equipment, people saying, can I buy one? how much is it? Can you ship me one, please? And I'll get the occasional TV show that says, can we borrow your equipment for the show? Well, up to that point, I said no, because I didn't want to ship it. That email I was very wary of, because she mentioned Paranormal Lockdown, she mentioned Nick Groff. And I said, but in all fairness, I don't know that I am talking to Elizabeth Saint. It might be some random person. I can't send you my device just on an email basis. So from that, we had a Skype call, didn't we?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
She confirmed. I was quite happy that I was sending it to the team. So, yeah, she arranged shipping. I shipped it out to America. Unfortunately, it got damaged a little bit on the way.
She's a clever lady, though.
But Elizabeth is also electrical engineer, so she put back together what they damaged. And I used it in season 3 of Paranormal Lockdown. And then we went and met them when they come over to the UK to pick it up, which is good. So it was.
And I wanted to go home with them, and they wouldn't let me.
So we've actually got a clip from that that show,
Paranormal Lockdown show. Yeah.
Yeah. Shall I show that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Bear with me. Okay.
You will get used to this.
I just threw that at her then. Bless her. She was sidelined.
You got
hear it.
You got
Ready?
it. Go on.
Heat signature.
The VFL box created by Matt Payne will allow us to use the video feedback looping method. And I really believe that spirits use light in this wavelength, and they can actually communicate with us a lot easier that way. We're also going to project the image of the VFL box right onto the wall over here so we can see anything in real time.
Old analog equipment doesn't filter things out like modern equipment does. So if we use a vintage camera, we have a vintage Polaroid right here, we might be able to capture whatever energy is here in the basement.
Ready? We're here to figure out what's going on with this jail, why you're haunting it.
So is that a proud moment to see one of your babies premiere? Yeah, on prime time TV.
So following that, we had they had it for about a year, didn't they?
Yeah,
the box.
While,
they had the box for ages.
It was worth it, though.
I spoke to Elizabeth while they was filming. She said, "Oh, we used it today in an episode. Well, we used it for filming." She said, "But I can't guarantee it's going to make the show, because they film, as you know, 72 hours in one location, and then they get a 45-minute episode as well as the history into that 45 minutes." So I didn't think any more about it. If it happens, it happens. And we watched it anyway, didn't we? And then one evening it just came on, and it was, on TV. We thought,
because they use a lot of our apps as well, don't they?
In season 2, they use some of our apps in some of the episodes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I like the show, because there were people featuring in the show and their equipment. So people we speak to in America, like Keith Wilden, Steve Huff, people that we've spoke to in the past, their equipment was on there as well, and some of the stuff that they was doing. So Nick, Elizabeth and the team were great at recognising people in the field that were doing things and trying to make new equipment to build on this research.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I find a lot of the paranormal, the most important thing is for us to be able to learn. We do need to recognise what other people are doing. But like you said, sometimes that can cause a lot of conflict, because there's always a diverse group of people that have a very diverse interpretation of what they're experiencing. So then you always have this kind of like knock-in effect sometimes. But I do think it is essential, and that, these things need to be recognised within research. It brings validity.
What I love about the ITC field, especially with the ITC Collective and other groups as well, is that they've all come together. There's no jealousy. They all get on. They all help each other. They've all got their own teams. They all do their bit. But it's like a family of like 100,000 people. But the bigger ones out there, they do come together. They do help people, and I just I get really angry with what I call green-eyed monsters that put these people down, because they are real. You know, these people are real, and what I've seen them do is real. And they just want to do their little bit and get it out there, and encourage other people to go out there and research and, you know, start inventing stuff. That's all they want to do. They're not out there to be the big I ams or anything like that. So I get really annoyed when people start trolling them. It really annoys me.
No, it is difficult because it does, like you said, it affects people's real lives when they are just trying to put things out there, and they're encouraging people to do the same as them, not just go out and make equipment, to recreate experiments and interactions to see if they get the same kind of responses or answers.
I was about to say that if anyone asked for advice on equipment wise and where they could start if they was new to the field, you know, I like the field because anyone could come into it tomorrow that's had no experience, and he'll have an idea, or they'll have an idea that would be the next breakthrough. You don't need to have loads of experience in anything. But that said, if I could give advice, I'd say look at the experiment already done. You know,
and work on them.
You know, at the moment, I've been through it in the past. I'm studying again the, you know, George Meek and Bill O'Neill, the Spiricon, which was back in the 80s. And it's those same techniques, because all we're doing now is an advanced form of EVP using these boxes. So we're still using the exact same techniques, just with modern equipment. So always go back and look at the pioneers, you know, from 40, 50 years ago. Take what they've done and just bring it into modern day.
They knew what they were talking about.
We're still using the same theories now. We haven't learned that much. It's just new, up-to-date
ways
equipment.
Of doing it, yeah. And clearer ways of communicating. Yeah. It's about the clearer communication. And trying to make it more frequent so that you can get actual full-blown conversations. Because, yeah. I don't know.
It's the debate of using white noise or static sound or removing it. Do we benefit from that white noise? Yes, it can be a good carrier for EVP, but I'm not sure we benefit.
Gives me a headache.
You know, I'm not sure we benefit that much for real-time communication. No. It's like AVPs or reckless.
So that's one thing I find with apps like equipment like the Spirit Box and stuff like that. That constant it does become a little bit jarring, and it takes away from what actually is coming through because you're distracted by the white noise that's happening at the same time.
That's right. Yeah.
That's why I'd always recommend AM sweep if you can find something that sweeps AM. It's a much quieter sweep. You can hear. So that's sweeping AM. So it's not too loud. It's still. It's much easier to listen to than FM, but it depends on the radio.
Okay, thank you. One thing that we have done is go through the apps that we have had access to, the apps that you have created, and absolutely amazing. Me previously, I've spoken to Shelley about this before, about my interaction with apps and me using apps and investigations. It's not something I've ever done before. I was investigating at a time where apps were really first coming onto the scene, so there was this big debate about using them. However, I did use your app last night, and we used both your Supernal SD and the Ghost Box.
Yes.
We enjoyed the Ghost Box, but we got a lot more activity, a lot more interaction using the Supernal. Is that something that you guys find as well, or is it just?
Yeah. So the difference between the apps. So the first apps were 5 years ago, I think. Yeah, about 5 years ago, and I was lucky enough that we had a guy that worked with us. He had all the, the code was in place, and he created a group many years ago, and for unity, he wanted some paranormal unity, and he wanted people to come together and stop fighting about stuff and just research and more developers in the field. So that guy started me off, and then from there, I learned, a lot of stuff on my own back. The banked apps, so any application you use will have either banks that are installed. So when you install the app, it's going to install sound from your phone. Or the other alternative, like Supernal, it's going to sweep live shoutcast radio stations or, shoutcast stations. So it's going to mimic what a ghost box does. The best thing for anyone to do with any apps is to listen before you do session. Just listen to the app, especially if it's got banks, because you need to learn the sounds in the app. So you need to be able to determine when you got communication or when you just got a sound from the app.
They're quite repetitive, and the voices are easy to acknowledge, aren't they?
And it's good when they're repetitive, because you'll know that you've got the bank coming through and you've got no communication.
Yeah. We've got good evidence from all of them, haven't we? I've got to say that I don't think it's so much the app, because I believe that spirit can manipulate any type of sound, whether it's rain, noise, or whatever. I believe it's all to do on location, the person asking the questions, and obviously the surroundings. So they all work.
They all work. The apps take patience, but the PSI Ghost Box works with, I think there's 4,000 audio segments, and all the segments are below 500 milliseconds, so half a second each. And all it's doing, it's shuffling those sounds in the background. It's got a random speed. It's got the echo feature, which uses the microphone, so your own voice becomes part of the bank. So yeah, it's just looking for that manipulation, whether they're manipulating the phone or the sound that comes from the phone or the speaker.
We've had full sentences coming out of them. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we did, because I say that we use the apps together. In fact, I used one and Sarah used one. So that's probably where we got a lot of the I had more activity on mine. I was using Supernal, and Sarah had not so much activity, but then it could be locations where I am right next to the sea and all that kind of stuff. So, but with we did have things come through with Sarah. With me, we had a person, and he come through and we got his name, and we got what shocked me is obviously the equipment that I use is ones that you have to hear a sentence over a number of frequency changes.
Yeah.
And even though that is very similar to obviously the same that's happening now, it's so much clearer. So it doesn't sound like it's a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I was like, that's really good. Yeah. So we had good interaction. We had a man, we had communication come through, and we've jotted notes down, because obviously we're gonna, if it's okay with you guys, we're gonna write a review of our experience and of what we found using the apps. But we found it was really user friendly. Everything was straightforward off the bat. You didn't have to do anything really other than push okay. So for me, who's not tech savvy, it was absolutely perfect. So I would say that even if you as a novice investigator and you just wanted to kind of have a go and see how you feel and pop out by yourself, which by the way, Shelley, I see you do all the time, and I would absolutely crap myself. No matter, I'm going through and I'm going, she's by herself again. She's in the woods by herself. Like, no.
I tell everyone the story because that night Matt was actually in the car by the fence, and he said, just go inside the woods, don't go no further. So he said, no, I'll just stay in. Of course, I was actually before I got there. Of course, I've got out into the woods, I've started the live, and I just started walking, and I just kept walking.
Oh, no. I would have been mad. I'd be like, I'll wait here, love. I'll see you. Come back when you're done. Yeah, no. So I would. Those apps though are really convenient. It's in your phone. It's it's not something you've got to take at anything. I know that it is advisable to have a speaker if you can, but I did use my headphones and I found that I was okay with that. I heard what I needed to hear. But I know you said that a Bluetooth speaker.
Well, we advise to record what you're listening to, because the amount of times I've been on location. And I thought I heard something, and I've answered. But when I've listened back, actually, it was sort of similar to what I heard, but it wasn't actually what I heard. And I could have answered completely different. I could have replied to it completely different. And I think it was a different outcome. So it does pay to sort of record it and then listen back.
Yeah, especially if you haven't got a second pair of ears, because I know that when I was working with Sarah on the one that I was using, Supernal, I thought I heard a name, and Sarah thought she had heard a name but a different name to what I heard. So it's always important it's good to have a second pair of ears, because once Sarah said no, it sounded like that. I was like, actually, I know it's that kind of like what's it called? When you but at the same time, it's always good. So because then actually no, that's right. So yeah, I would say my friend Laura, I think she's in there. I've advised her to go and get them as well because she loves ghost hunting. She hasn't been on many. She doesn't mind just popping out by herself because she is an Amazon woman. I'm not lying to you. She's an Amazon. She calls me Little Hobbit. But so I've said for her to, because it's so easy and simple when you can just crack on by yourself and not really worry too much. And yeah, so I loved it. So yeah, on that basis is great, but I also think it's a great addition to any paranormal kit as well, because if you've got a broad spectrum of equipment that's available for you, regardless of the perspective that you're coming from, it's still great to have. If you've got one piece of equipment doing one thing and then you've got two other pieces doing the same thing, then it just adds weight to your data collection, which is even better.
Yeah. So yeah, I always looked at the apps as a good introduction to anyone coming into the field. That's why most of them are free. You know, I've got more than 10 apps on the store, and I think about 8 are free. You know, a lot of hours have gone into them. There's still a lot of hours go into keeping them up to date, to keep up with the Google Play Store. But that's the best way to look at the apps. It's a good introduction. If they work for you, if you build that connection, have a little bit of patience, then you can move on to a spirit box, and maybe whatever you choose works for you. But it's a good introduction for anyone that wants to come in.
Yeah, and I will be honest, it wasn't difficult for me to move from a spirit box to an app either. So I know it's great as a platform to be able to move forward, but even if you're used to having equipment like that, it's not something that's going to be hard for you to go from. In fact, it's better because you haven't got that. I know with the Supernal, you've got the option with the meditation music to come through, which was great. Me and Sarah were talking about this last night. That if you want to open up, which is what I do I'm quite spiritual with my investigation. So meditation music, if I'm out and I want to open up, it's great. And it's the same thing.
Which actually brings me to my next app.
All right. Go on.
A guided meditation with grounding and protection and closing of investigations.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, that's so exciting.
We've had so many people say to us, well, how do I do grounding and protection? How do I open up? How do I do it to communicate? So I said to Matt, let's create an app so they can just bring it up on their phone. You know, they'll be guided all the way through it, but they'll feel safer. You know, they don't have that negative thoughts in their head. They'll feel safer. So that makes a lot, because I've been with teams that don't open up, and I've been with teams that do, and I've been with teams that have been together and they will just point blank refuse to get involved with this group, which is absolutely fine. Everyone's each to their own. But yeah, opening up and closing down is a massive part for me. So if I for example wasn't able to do it and I'm with a group and they want to do it, then if to have something accessible for them just like that would be ideal. So I think people feel that a little bit safer as well, that they feel that little bit of protection, and then it's something they can go back to if they start to feel really anxious or really nervous. It's something they can go back to with the headphones and just sit there and listen and calm themselves down and feel protected again, you know. So it sort of builds them up to become ghost hunters.
Well, if you need a secondary voice, I've been told I'm quite calming. I'll be more than happy to donate.
That, yeah, definitely.
I'll donate happily. But yeah, so with the Supernal, I'm very conscious that I'm saying that wrong. You have that great music, so that's great that you've got that coming in as well. But you also have the option to do static and non-static, which also is great. I think that's really, because there's an argument, like you said, there's an argument about hearing voice phenomena. It's better being amplified with static than it, and some say that it isn't. So, for example, conversations that we've already had this evening. So I think that's really, I had great fun anyway. Long story short.
Yeah, personal of mine is we don't tend to use static, but if I do get an EVP through static, it's better evidence for me than it is for a sweeping radio.
Yeah.
Because if it's just a constant static that isn't sweeping any frequencies and something comes through, we've had many a times, you can't beat that, because I know 100% there's no stations. There shouldn't be any bleed through from any stations, because it'll be on a station that isn't anywhere near a frequency. and that comes back to, as I said earlier, the Spiritron device. I've got an app that runs the frequencies from the 1980s that was used in Spiritcom by George Meek, and it's 13 frequencies, and it's horrible to listen to. It sounds like a robot. I was listening to it earlier, wasn't I?
Yeah.
It sounds like a really robotic sound, and it's not nice to listen to, but it works for communication. And because there's no voices, there's no reverse speech, it's just a constant tone. When you get communication come through that, it's the best evidence you can get.
Absolutely.
So this brings me on to my next question, actually. Obviously, we have people that have been investigating for a long time that might listen, some that might just be starting it out. So I have 2 questions. My first question is, if you was to only have 3 pieces of equipment that you've made, that's it, in your kit, what would it be?
For both of us or each?
We'll go each. We'll go each.
You go first.
For me, it would be the teddy bear. Because I seem to encourage a lot of kids, like spirit children.
Yeah.
So the Busby bear, I call him with the K2 in, is very special. It's been with us for many years. I would probably say the S-Box and a good old phone app. No, I ain't saying the Ouija box. No.
I'll say the Ouija box for her. It's all right.
Okay. Mine would definitely be the VFL, because it gives 3 different types. You've got the video feature, that you've got the audio, and it also uses your voice. So it's 3 different types in one. The Ouija box, definitely, because just what it's been giving us over the past.
I love that box.
You know what? There'll be a new box that comes out in the next couple of months. You're not going to hear about that one again. Because it'll be another baby.
Novelty's worn off.
Yeah, so definitely the Ouija box. And last, I don't know what.
I like cat balls and all.
Yeah. What else do I often use? It'll probably be, we've just started using some really old school, like dictaphones, take little tiny cassettes.
Yeah.
So it's analog recording. So I'll probably take one of those, because I do like to use old and new. So I'll take something that's a bit old school as well.
Sounds good.
So I've got a clip of the Supernal app that Matt very kindly sent me.
Oh, this is the recent one, isn't it?
Yes. I thought it was quite interesting.
Yes.
So we'll give that a go.
Can you tell me the name of the virus? Is it going to get better soon? Is there going to be lots more deaths?
So I think that may be something interesting to look back on a few months down the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will be.
I do.
That's why we shared it, because, like Shell said earlier, at the time we heard the occasional word.
Yeah.
But when we watched the video back 2 or 3 times, we just got so much more. And that's really important with ITC, is that you listen back, always record your set, come back afterwards and listen back again, because you'll get so much more come through. And that's where we need to know where that manipulation happens. Is it at the box? Is it in the air? Or is it on the recording device? Somewhere between the 3, something's happening, and we're trying to narrow down what's happening and where.
So do you find also with going into the whole listening back thing, do you find playing with maybe the tempo, the different sound settings, you can get clearer?
Not with ITC. I tend not to do that.
Okay.
If it was EVP, we might slow it down. Sometimes even reversing it can sometimes bring out.
We've slowed it down before, haven't we? Got some quite good.
Yeah, but even reversing them sometimes can bring through something that sounds like an intelligent response. But with radio sweep or ITC stuff, we tend not to play with any of the tempos or the pitch or anything. We leave it as it is, and then we try and present it as we've recorded it, because it's more validation than
exactly. And we get a lot of criticism when you start doing things like that, as other paranormal guests.
Yeah.
We found out as soon as they start editing their videos way too much and slowing things down, that's when the criticism comes in. And we'd just rather leave it as it is, add a few words if we hear it, and let everybody judge for themselves. So
it's also interesting, like I've watched quite a few of your lives now, that sometimes the viewers will pick up on sounds or voices or words, sentences that you may not have picked up on.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we like doing the spirit boxes and the apps on the live, because like I said to you earlier, they might, I think, again, it could be through where it's being played through a second external speaker, through their laptops or through their phones. It could be anything. And we've actually conducted an experiment where we was playing it's 30-minute spirit box session through the internet. People were to record the session, ask their own questions, and send us out in our video, their videos, and every response was different.
Interesting.
Certain experiments, there's still some that I need to do.
Yeah.
There's some really strange ones we've done that we need to revisit, but there's one particular that needs to be done that I think it would change a lot of people's mind as to how they think ITC works. Because our theory is, as I've said tonight many times, manipulation of audio. It's exactly the same as EVP, in my opinion. In an EVP session, you're holding your dictaphone, or in better case, you place the dictaphone down, you record, and then Spirit will use the environmental sound. So if it's a little bit of wind, it may be a traffic in the distance, passing cars, or it could be a slight bit of rainfall. They'll use that sound to give you their voice. So the Spirit boxes are doing just that, but it's getting better to hear in real time, but it could still be improved.
Kerry?
So you mentioned, I said I wanted to ask two questions before. I just asked one. The second one actually was linked to experiments. So I was going to ask, what was your best experiment that you've done to date that you feel kind of gave you, not the answers you wanted, but gave you answers?
For me personally, it's got to be the Ouija box one, when we was down in the cafe.
The original Ouija box.
We done 3 things that night. We had Matt downstairs in a downstairs room. We had a separate Ouija board going, and we had a spirit box. We asked them to confirm where they were touching Matt. Not only did they touch Matt, and we had him on camera, they confirmed it through the Ouija box, and then through the spirit box.
Wow.
3, because it was really active, wasn't it, there that night? It was mad. It's probably one of the only times I've really seen a Ouija board that active with people I completely trust. It was mental. And then to get the validations from the box, from the board, and then get them on the box as well, it was crazy. What about you?
Mine, I'm not sure mine was so...
You like being blindfolded, don't you?
That's not paranormal.
Oh, sorry.
That's the after show, guys.
No one's invited.
In the red room afterwards.
Yes. I've done a few experiments a number of years ago. Again, I'm always trying to see where that manipulation comes, where the voice is coming from. So I was lucky enough at the time that I was working from home and you was working in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So during the day when Shelley was at work, the house used to become solely for experiments. So what I done on this one experiment, I had.
Then wonders why the house ends up haunted.
Yeah. So I had a radio that was sweeping FM frequencies, and I used some two-way radios. So I had an elastic band holding in the button on the two-way radio, and I placed it a few meters away from the spirit box on the table. I then went to another room, placed the receiving radio of the two-way radios in that room with a dictaphone, and placed the dictaphone a few meters away from that radio. So I was broadcasting. If you think about the radio signal coming into the radio, through the speaker, through another two-way radio, into another room, into the recording device. And I was recording in both rooms at the same time. And I held a 10-minute session. And the theory was I wanted to see if the recordings on both recorders were exactly the same, or if there's any point in the recordings that were different. And that would prove that there was manipulation happening between the two, because they should, in theory, have exactly the same. And that proved to give some, I wouldn't say 100% validation, but it gave some interesting results to think about. Yeah, it's one of those I need to revisit.
Okay, well, thank you. We're coming to the end of our live stream now, but before we go, I've got another last question for you. If you was to advise any of the people watching to conduct a simple experiment that they could do on their own or with, safely, what would you suggest?
White noise experiment.
Was exactly the same. As I said earlier, just use a static sound, white noise from YouTube, just the sound. Check it before you do your experiment, your session. Make sure there's no other tones or speech in that recording. Just do a 5 to 10 minute recording. Use a recorder, a dictaphone, or even your mobile phone to record. Just play the sound at a reasonable volume into the room. And every 1 minute, ask a question and record it and listen back. 5 to 10 minutes, that's all it takes. And if you're comfortable doing so, just listen back, because you'll be surprised at sometimes what comes through. Keep trying. It's persistence and patience with communication.
But it's an easy one to start off with, isn't it? It's an easy one to start with, playing with white noise and EVPs and stuff. So yeah.
That's where I'd start, EVPs.
Okay. Sarah, anything?
I think we've actually got a few questions from people in the comments. Just find one. Oh, no, that's gone up too far. Bear with me. I'm so tired today, guys. Really, I'm just not doing it today. Here we go. So Ashley wants to know if you have looked into the skull experiment. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Video feedback loop.
Yes, so the skull experiment is similar to what people have done around the world, for many years now. It wasn't the one that captured my imagination, because I think earlier ones in the 80s were more of interest to me, let's say. The skull experiment with the group of people and the locations they used, great evidence, but it's not something that I've looked into that much. We
spoke about it, haven't we?
We watched a few documentaries about it, watching the evidence that they presented. So yeah, it's something, again, I need to revisit. I tend to go through
phases,
decades, and at the moment my decade is the 80s. I'm going back to George Meek and what he was doing. So yeah, but I will revisit, definitely.
What do you believe that captured EVPs are spiritual? Matt, sorry, I read what? Communication, suggestive survival, or ...
So do you believe that captured EVPs are spiritual communications suggestive?
That's actually a good question for him, because we was in the middle of Pluckley Woods one night and we got an EVP that only Matt heard that night. So what do you think that was? You heard that voice. What would you say that was?
I think it was what we call an AVP, so that's audible voice phenomena. EVP, you're using an electronic device to capture. On that occasion, I had a camera in my hand and it was audible, as you know.
Heard it?
It's on YouTube. The clip is on YouTube. It's Pluckley, Screaming Woods. All the ladies were doing a spirit box.
Yeah.
He was doing spirit box, and it was all really windy, horrible conditions, but that's why it was perfect for that EVP.
Because you was the only one who heard it.
So I stood a good few feet away recording on the camera. And in the clip, you'll see they're doing the session, and I heard, "What's the matter with you?" Really clear. So I said to them straight away, "Did you hear that?" And they all looked at me really strange.
I was like, "No, what are you on about? Shut up."
And I said,
"Get that recording."
I just felt, "What's the matter with you?" And they all just looked at me and then looked away as if to say, "Shut up." But when I got home, I was determined to look back at that clip, and it was on the video camera. But where it come from, again, as I said, it was windy. I believe spirit used the sound of the wind, the trees.
So do you think it's spirit?
Voice.
So do you think it's spirit, or do you think it's something else?
I haven't got that far yet.
You won't answer it.
I don't think anyone has really with confidence that can say, yeah, that's that or that's that. I think people can have an indication of what they feel. But
you say that though, that conversation that my son had in this front room over that spirit box, you cannot even question it. You know, that he spoke to Callum. Callum was only about 12. Callum asked, "Who am I talking to?" And he said, "It's your granddad Charlie boy." You know, and the things he was saying to him, it was him. I couldn't, and we got that on video. You can't argue with it. It's
yeah. I don't know. Sometimes, when I'm doing a session, I try and project my thoughts. So I constantly thinking of a word without saying that word, and I'm interested to see if it comes through.
Yeah,
because the mind is, still powerful. Again something we still don't fully understand, and it's more powerful than I think we use it for.
And we tried the reel to reel.
We have a reel to reel that is a 1940s. It's got a massive microphone. It's like
it's like proper, like when it did like the old Cockney songs dressed up in a 1940s outfit.
It's a really interesting piece of kit. Really difficult to listen back to because it records, but the sound that comes back through is really noisy.
Really bad.
But again, sometimes that can benefit EVPs. So yes, reel to reel. Again, old techniques. Always use them because we learn so much.
Told you I got a house full of junk.
It doesn't sound like junk to me. It sounds like a whole lot of fun.
It's not, but I think we just got to make way for some new stuff now.
Okay, we'll get a bigger house.
I know. I'm getting a haunted hideaway. We can put some stuff in there on display.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds perfect. I'd like to come.
You're more
I
don't mind hiding away. PSI, why not? Be interesting.
It's always interesting.
I don't think we've ever gone out and nothing gone wrong. No, so it's always goes wrong when we all work, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what's good.
Someone have a break, get chased by cows, or
it's haunted, right?
Yeah, it was.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. A lot of the stuff we've spoken about so much, but we haven't even touched. I literally had such a day of going through your Facebook page. I went through your website. I found loads of videos. I found loads of photos. I found loads of articles, blogs. There's so much stuff, so much content there that it takes more than a day to go through. It definitely takes more than an hour to talk about. So I would suggest that anyone that's interested in anything that Shelley or Matt is doing, what team you're on, Shelley team or Matt team, where you're going to come from. I think there's something there for everyone to come over and have a look and see for themselves, really. Have a look at the videos that are put out there, the lives that you're encouraged to join in. And there is a lot of free content there as well that, Matt has encouraged people to try for themselves and before they, pass comment or anything like that. So that's great stuff. But we'll be sharing everything. Sorry.
We say to people as well, don't be afraid to contact us. If you are, you want to try some stuff yourself and you don't know where to start, just let us know. That's what we're here for. We'll help out. Give you all the advice we can. That's just what we do, isn't it? what we want to do. We encourage people to do it. So
that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, we'll be sharing lots over to our page as well, but we do encourage everyone to come over yours, definitely. Have you got a live coming up in the next couple of days, or
possibly?
At the moment, we're not planning. We sort of, as each day goes.
We've got a lot going on at the moment, but we've got some interesting stuff coming up, haven't we?
Definitely, we've got some looking at some venues.
Yeah, we just got some stuff to sort out. You know, it's just difficult with lockdown and everything else going on. It's just we want to get further afield, but we can't get further afield because we can't stay anywhere. And I don't know, I just get bored of the same locations all the time. So.
Yeah, it's hard times at the moment.
Well, as soon as you can come to Essex, you're welcome here, and yeah, we'll have lots of fun. And yes, got anything coming up, then let us know, and we'll be happy to share. And it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for letting us share.
Thank you, girls. Honestly, we've enjoyed it. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to say goodnight. Thank you for everyone that has listened. Want to say a quick happy birthday to Andrew as well. It's your birthday today. I hope you've had
Happy birthday.
Hope you had a great day. And our next live will be on Thursday. I was going to say Wednesday. Thursday at 9 o'clock next week, UK time. And we'll be speaking to Daniel Moss. So thank you very much. And happy hunting. Virtual hunting. So virtual hunting. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.